Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in just a minute, so if you wouldn't mind finding your seats, grabbing your coffee, cookie, whatever's going to get you through. Thanks. Thank you, everybody. I will call this meeting of the First Church congregation to commence. My name is Jason Cooper. I am the moderator for First Church, and it's wonderful to be talking with everybody here today. Thank you for attending. Please take note of a few of the reminders up on the screen. This is a televised meeting, and so once we get to the comment period, if you have one to make and are able to stand and walk to the microphone, please do so that those that are viewing remotely can see you. If you're unable to, please just raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. And as a reminder, we have an agenda that's in your packet. I'll be walking us through those agenda items. Anybody that is a member of the congregation, if you have a new item for business, that will be at the end of the meeting. The agenda items will be presented to you, and I'll be asking a few people to speak to some of the things we're going to cover. Once they've done that, I'll ask for a motion from the floor, and then once the motion is on the floor and seconded, that's when general comments can be made about that motion before we vote. And then depending on the type of vote, I'll probably just ask for a voice vote, or if we think we need it, I'll ask for a hand vote, and somebody will be asked to count the hands for the voting. Before we begin, I'd ask Pastor Jill to lead us off with an opening prayer.
Let us pray. Holy One, we thank you for gathering us for our annual meeting. And while the business of the church might not feel as holy as some of the other parts of our time together, we recognize that the business of the church is also a statement about how we love and care for one another and care for this community. So I ask for your presence to be with us as we discuss, as we meet together, and that your love would be central. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jill. The first order of our business, as always, is review and approval of the congregational minutes. This will be from the December congregational meeting from 2023. Hopefully everybody grabbed a packet from the back. The notes from last December's meeting are in there. And so I would look to somebody in a pew to make a motion to approve those minutes. Fritz is up front, so I saw Fritz. Thank you, Fritz. Do I see a second for the motion to approve the minutes? Dan Jarris, thank you, Dan. Any comments about the notes from last year's meeting? And again, if you have one, please walk to the front for the microphone.
This is simply because of my working with the archives. I would suggest that we make sure that this is labeled the annual meeting.
Thank you, Dan. And just to clarify, is that a comment about the meeting minutes from last year? Okay, thank you. And then Lisa, I would also note that the minutes stated Sorry, give me a second. The second group of positions that were voted last year, which included me and Jeff Cook, are voted on every year. So if we could make that change too, it says that this does not require congregational approval, but the moderator and vice moderator positions are voted on every year. They're only one-year terms. Any other comments on the notes from last year's meeting? So I'll assume that the comments as stated would be part of the amended proposal, correct, Fritz?
Correct.
Thank you. And you're okay with that, Dan, as the second? Okay. So I'll ask for a voice vote to approve the motion to accept the minutes from last year as amended. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our second order of business is the reception of the annual report. That's the packet hopefully you're looking through. This has a summary from each of the council team members on the activities that their committees have been engaged with over the past year. It also includes a survey that we conducted over a period of about 10 Sundays, where each council member came up, asked some questions. So the results of that survey, which are I think pretty interesting, are included. I think that's a separate packet, so if you didn't get one, they are back on the back table. If we run out of those copies and you'd like one, you can come up to me and we'll make sure you get another copy of it. There's no motion for the reception of the annual report, but please do look through it at your leisure. And I thank all of the team members and staff and volunteers for all the hard work this past year that's shown in the reports that they've submitted. So thank you.
Can I just make one correction? Is that possible or no?
The annual report is not something that the congregation, you for sure can make a comment on it, yes. So if you'd like to, it's just not something that we vote into acceptance, but please do, yeah.
I just want to make one quick correction. This was,
Yeah, come to the mic if you wouldn't mind.
This was donated to the church after I wrote this report. So on page 27, it says a new drinking fountain with a water bottle filling station was donated to the church. There were 2 drinking fountains donated for an approximate donation of $3,000, so the total should end up to be $8,155 from Women's Fellowship.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Women's Fellowship. The next order of business is the election of council positions open for 2025. The only position that's being put forth before you today is Jeff's as moderator. The other sitting council members are all serving their second year in their positions, and so are not up for a vote. So I would ask for a motion to approve the slate as proposed. Thank you, Cal. And do I see a second? Thank you, Rick. Do we have any comments or questions about the proposed slate? This is where Jeff sweats a little bit. Okay, thank you. I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor of approving the council slate as proposed, say aye. Aye. Opposed? You're in, Jeff. Woo-hoo. Thank you. Yes, Mary Ann would like to ask a question.
So I know we've had, an open spot for the vice moderator. All right, I'm short, you know? Okay, ooh, I feel like I should tell racing scores or something. So I know we don't have anyone in as the vice moderator. Is that something that we will continue to look for during the year? And then would we have a council meeting, a congregational meeting to vote that person in if and when we find someone?
Yes, we are still searching for the vice moderator position. Thank you, Mary Ann. And yes, once that person has made their interest known, in order to seat for that position, they would have to be voted in by the congregation. So we are obligated to have a minimum of 2 congregational meetings a year. This is one of those for the year 2024. We had one in September. So next year, potentially, there would be a congregational meeting February, March, like, you know, as soon as we can fill that vacancy. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Thank you all. Moving right along to the 2025 budget. I'm going to ask Mary Ann to give you a brief.
Before we get to that, we do want to thank you, Jason, for being the moderator for
Oh,
the past 2 years.
oh yeah, I forgot I was. Yes, thank me. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Jill. Next order of business, though, is the 2025 budget. I've asked Mary Ann to give you a brief summary of the budget that's proposed for you. Once she's done that, I'll hopefully see somebody motion to accept the budget, and then once that motion is approved, we'll have a discussion about the budget and any potential amendments anybody would like to make to it. Mary Ann?
Hi, so I am now one of the 2 assistant treasurers. Judy Anderson and myself have taken that role over this year. John Walsh wasn't able to be here today. He is your treasurer, so I am stepping in for him for today. The budget in front of you is pretty self-explanatory. A couple of things that are... Oh, what?
If you can't see the tiny print on the screen, the last page that is the budget. So, page 31 of the annual report.
Good call.
Thank you. So a couple of really good news things. We've had member giving increase, which is phenomenal. And so that's wonderful. That's to you. Other things to note, we do have a potential renter to start in 2025 for 24 West Ash. Jeff can speak to that in more detail after we're done with this part. And then we did, as a finance team, the treasurer has a finance team that is there to help bounce things off of, help advise. The number of people in the team and their names are in the annual report. We meet once a month to help guide the church to financial security, and we are the Aunt Edna saying, no, you can't spend that money. So what we did this year, decide that the budget could withhold a 4% raise for the staff. This is a long time coming. They worked very hard last year. We were not able to do a very good job with the raise, so we're very happy that we can do this year. We have increased the amount going to wider church. Lorinda, you gotta let me finish. Can you not hear me?
We can
Oh, you know, I'm usually so noisy.
take it out of the just hold it. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I am usually the loudest voice in the room, am I not? And today I'm demure. What's going with that? Okay, so the good news is member pledges, you'll see, is up. Thank you, everyone, for that. It's wonderful to have that, that faith in all of us and the faith in keeping First Church going. We do have a potential renter for 24 West Ash, which will bring some income in this year. There was no income there last year. We did decide as the finance team. Sorry for those of you in the front, you're going to hear this again. The finance team is a team that is there to help the treasurer when it comes to making financial decisions for the congregation. The treasurer is the person who is responsible for making sure that we are meeting our budgets, we're not going into deficits, we're not spending money frivolously, et cetera, et cetera. The finance team is there to help with all of those decisions. And this year, we were very happy to see the increase in the giving so that we would be able to give the staff a 4% raise. They have not had that in a long time. So I'm glad to hear you clap because we're very happy about this. They work very hard and we feel terrible that we have not been able to do more than that until recently. You'll also see that we also have increased Wider Church's budget from last year. This is also due to the giving that we've got. Now keep in mind, a budget is just that. It's a budget. You'll notice we have $15,000 in there for the auction, but we don't have anyone to run the auction yet. So this is one of those, we've got to be realistic about the budget, and we have to be hopeful, to play off of Jill's sermons, and that'll happen. But those are things we have to take into account, and the finance team takes their job very seriously when they put these budgets together. And I think that's the main. Eric Wilson, just a shout out to him as the head of management. That man, you want him finding bids for you because he finds great companies to do work for us at better cost than what we've had in recent years. So big thanks to Eric. And I think that's all the big highlights. That's it. No questions at this point.
Thank you, Mary Ann. We'll have opportunity for comments, questions, motions, amendments to the motion once somebody makes a motion to approve the budget as presented. Oh, Barb, thank you. Do I see a second?
I'll second.
Lorinda, thank you. Thank you, Lorinda. Now is the time for questions about the budget. Please, again, come to the mic in the front.
Hi, I just had a question what the additional support is, the second line on the budget.
Did everybody hear that question? Yeah.
My question is about the additional support, the second line, what that is composed of? Yeah, 20,000.
Okay. That is money that we had been given in December of 2023. And we have used some of that money at the end of 2023 to balance our books at the end of the year. We never want to go into arrears because we don't have a very large fund principal account of money. So our goal is always to balance out. And we had a member delightfully give us money for that. We've reserved that $20,000 in anticipation that we might need it again. If we don't, it could also stay and be used for any catastrophe, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to, I'm very superstitious. But, you know, we have an old building. We have things that need to be taken care of, and so we are conscious that that money is there for giving, but it comes from a gift.
Which made me...
And it was a gift that was not designated as something else, right? So if we get a gift from someone and they say, I want it to go to fill in the blank, that's where it's going, so.
Okay, so this was left over from 2023?
Yes.
Okay, this made me think of something else. I have a friend who very generously made a donation to the church in the amount of $10,000, and I don't know exactly where that went. It was not designated for anything?
That's not budget, right? Because that was a gift, and that, I believe we talked to you about where we anticipated that. Okay, we'll talk.
Okay.
That money, when somebody does something like that, if it's not designated as endowment and it's designated as a gift in memory of someone or something, that will go into a restricted account to be used at a later date after we talk to the people who were involved in the giving to see where they want that to go. That's not a budget item because that's not an ongoing expense of the church month to month.
Right, okay, thank you.
I have a question about our giving to OCWM. It's not, I don't believe it's noted anywhere except I got this information by email in the last 2 weeks that the budgeted amount for OCWM will be $17,500.
Yes.
Which is more than the $10,000 that we had budgeted last year.
Yes.
And more than the $12,000 we actually gave. But I'm looking at page 19, that's from the Wider Church Annual Report, the past 5 years or 6 years of history of the OCWM giving, and we used to be around, 29,000, 27,000. So I'd just like to remind the church and council that personally, I would like to see us strive to continue increasing the amount to OCWM to get to those levels if possible. I'm very gratified that we're able to give more in 2025, and I would even like some kind of contingency that if our budget, whenever this process happens again, exceeds our expectation, that a portion of the excess goes to OCWM. That, in other words, that it's earmarked to 50% or 25, something, so that's built in so we don't have to vote it in or have a special meeting or anything like that.
And that's, and absolutely, Christina's right. The amount for OCWM was increased this year to $17,500. That is up $7,500 from last year. We had a very tight year last year, if you remember when we sat here last year. And this year we are in a better position. Although, once again, this is a budget, it's not actual. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to say, but there are things that happen that we don't have control over. One, the auction. We've had years where the auction brought in $25,000. We've had years where it's brought in $12,000. That is always going to be a wild card for us, and we have to, as part of the finance team, we have to make sure we're not spending money we don't have. I absolutely agree. One of our things is to try to get OCWM up to a higher level as well, and it is always on our minds. Can we commit to that at this point? We can't go further than the 17.5 because we feel comfortable we can make that. First Church has always been a church that has met their goal for whatever they've told the Illinois Conference. We have always paid it. And anecdotally, through the, back roads, I've heard that other churches, when they struggle, that's the thing they do not pay. So we have always been very good at that, so we want to continue to make that commitment and keep to that commitment. And so that's important.
Thanks, Marianne. I would just like to add something. This would be a fixed expense, though. So it's a little different than some of the unknown income and expenses that Marianne was talking about. And it is the congregation's purview to review and approve these fixed expenses. So this is the meeting. Christine used the word earmark, but it is the meeting where this congregation would consider and approve the amounts being committed to these fixed expenses. We don't have another body that really would review and approve big jumps. This is your budget meeting. So I would just say it should be up for consideration if the congregation feels that the budget should be amended in any way. I do think the finance team did a good job of considering where we've been at with budgets for the last 5 years. 2020, we proposed a net zero budget. For 2021, it was a net zero budget. But then the three most recent years, 2022, 2023, and 2024, and that's when I've been on council, we've proposed deficit budgets. And I know that was on finance team's minds when they proposed the surplus budget you see today. Now, we didn't finish as deficit years each of those years. We actually had generous member gifts in some of those years that put us in the black. But we did have a real bad 2021 where we were $31,000 in the hole. And then the other thing I would add is the account that Mary Ann was mentioning in terms of, what's the account name?
Wait, so can I just say one thing? You
Well,
mean
over the years, the fund principal at closing is around 40,000, 38,000, somewhere there right now. So that's the meter about where we are above water.
Sorry, one thing. We really, what happens is at the end of the year, if we are at a deficit, that's when we pull the money that you at the meetings vote for us to take the 5% from endowment, okay? So it's not like we brought in this extra money. This was endowment money that helps us balance that budget at the end of the year. And so the generous gift we got also helped us balance it. So if we have a surplus at the end of the year, what happens is, like Jason said, it goes to our fund principal account. The fund principal account, which is only $39,000, and I stress the word only because that is all the cash we have that is not tied to something else, right? So we have a lot of restricted accounts that are tied to different things. We have an endowment account that's lovely, and but those are different. The cash on hand that we have for any disaster like that is $39,000. So at the end of the year, if there is surplus, we would not take the endowment money, we'd leave it where it was, and that surplus rolls into the surplus fund, the finance fund principal amount. Did that make sense? Fritz is going maybe.
So I was going to ask about what you were just talking about, and that is, oh, I could have done that, thank you. And this is partly me speaking historically. You know, we as a congregation borrowed from that endowment fund to buy this piece of property out here, and we were on a system of paying that loan back to the endowment fund. And I think it might have been in the budget for a while, and it's disappeared. So I'm wondering where we stand with paying back the endowment fund and how that might be happening.
So it's dropped down to, I think it's 49,000 and some change now. It was 75 at one point. So we had someone give us an endowment that they said they wanted it specifically to go to pay down that loan, and so that's the last time we've done that, but that's probably been 2 years ago. It has not been a regular payment that we've made. Dan, that's a really good point. We have not, we have just left that as it is for the last, I don't know, probably 5 years.
Yeah, it's not in your annual report, but it is in the monthly treasurer's report in our assets and liabilities. The amount we still owe ourselves to the endowment is recorded there. I just don't have the monthly meeting reports in front of me. I don't think it's 40. I thought it was.
49,000.
Is it Rick Kelly? Is that? Yeah, he doesn't know. All right.
Both sides of you are telling you it is.
It's 49. All right, we owe ourselves 49,000 to the endowment. Yep.
I'm sorry, I just thought of this. When I did my pledge this year, I did note that under expenses, Call to Care is not given any money. And I just want to say that Jean Renault makes up baskets for the homebound people. And Dan Jarrett spends all the money on cards and stamps that we send. And I just think they should be acknowledged for that because there is nothing in the budget for that.
Thank you.
Thank them.
Yeah, and thanks, Dan and Jean.
So there's been mention of restricted funds and then also this cash fund.
Andrew, can you start over and bring the mic up?
There's been mention of the restricted funds and then also the cash funds. These are not listed in the report. Why not? Why does the congregation not aware of what the amounts are in these accounts?
Thank you, Andrew. We do report on them monthly at our council meetings. The treasurer has a monthly report which the congregation has access to. There's a separate, basically an assets and liability report. Our assets are shared in that report on a monthly basis. This is just the operating budget for next year.
Okay, so it's available, but it's monthly based on a separate report. Why can't we include it in this report?
It's not, the question is why can't we report it here? This is an action item for the congregation to vote on, so it's an agenda item for you to consider and approve. The current state of our assets and liabilities is not an action item, but it is information that we could share certainly in the annual
Could it be included
reports.
in the finance team report? Because there's a page in the report there from the finance team. Could it be included there? Because we know that that's not an actionable portion of the report.
Yes, it definitely could, and I know John referenced that our endowment account is now over $1 million, and the various accounts that make up the endowment account are part of that report that we see on a monthly basis. But in general, the endowment is healthy, and that's good. It's just not detailed in the annual report.
Understood. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Women's Fellowship on behalf of the management team, on behalf of the church, for those donations for the water fountains. And I also wanted to mention there was an anonymous donation this year for our new AED machine. That was a $1,700 purchase that the church didn't have to pay for either. So management does a lot of things and tries to pinch pennies, but when these donations come forward, it makes it that much easier on us to keep repairing things that go awry in our church. So I really want to thank Women's Fellowship and our anonymous donor for the AED.
Thank you, Eric.
I just want to thank the council for doing this hard work. Budgeting is always difficult, and having been involved in it, I know, and I hope that we all appreciate the work and the dedication that goes into formulating a budget and all the work that council does on our behalf.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you to the finance team who is doing most of the work. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the budget as proposed. Are there any additional comments or any potential amendments that anybody would like to make? This would be the time to do it. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a voice vote. All in favor of approving the budget, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is an update to the Constitution. This primarily, well, actually, this is just, not just, it's not minimal, but it is a change to the mission statement, which appears, I think, on the first page of our Constitution. Any changes to the Constitution require a 2/3 vote of the congregation in attendance, the membership in attendance, I should say. So to review a brief summary of what's been changed, I'll ask Eric Wilson to approach the mic. And I believe this is provided to you in your packet. Is that correct? Oh, it's a separate sheet? This blue sheet. Is anybody in need of a blue sheet? Okay, if someone wouldn't mind grabbing and distributing for us, I would appreciate it.
So while they grab that sheet for a couple people, this copy of the Constitution that has been amended was sent out in email format, and it shows on that email format what was added and what was subtracted, etc. So while we don't have that copy here, it has been sent to you, so if you're looking for nitty-gritty, but there's not a whole lot of changes, but there's some people that are technical and would like to see that, and it's available to you. It was sent out last week. But what you have before you is what we are going to vote on today. I was asked to just give you a synopsis. 3 years ago, when they brought forth this amendment with the statement you have on the left, there were a few changes that I wanted to make personally, and I stood up here. It was a day just like today, and I wanted to make a change, and basically they had already made the changes. It was just please approve. So, and that's kind of where we're at today. In that, I finally had the opportunity to make some changes because we had an extra or a congregational meeting where we could make some changes in a revision. This year, we found out on council that there are 2 congregational meetings a year. We had one that was open for opportunity to do something from the council. And one of those things was to make a revision on the mission statement. So they said, Eric, you want to make those changes? Go ahead, get a team together. So Jill and I formed a team of some members that have been around the church for a while, some newer members, some older members chronologically, and some younger members. So we had a team, and Bob Cochran, Dan Jarris, Marlene Peasley, Monse Cruz, Aiden Walsh, Jill and I met twice, August, September, and looked at our mission statement and wanted to have it reflect current feelings, thoughts, and what we thought about our church. At the same time, we wanted kind of to grammatically tighten it up, get out some wordy verbiage, and make it succinct. Basically, nowadays, people access our website and they can read what our church is about. This mission statement pretty much encapsulates those feelings and what they can read. We didn't want to have, I'm calling it my words, jargon. The shalom that was in there and agape. People on the street don't know what those words mean. We want them to be able to read what our church stands for and understand it. When there were some words in there that weren't clear, that doesn't make it easy for them to understand. So some of those words were removed, and we tightened things up, tightened up the bullets, and then we had that congregational meeting. People saw it. We had another meeting after church on November 10th or 11th, and we had 18 people there. And so we looked at what we had revised, so this was the first revision, and then we heard, we listened, we talked, there were some tears, there was some laughter, and we came up with this version that you have before you now that we felt reflects First Church's mission. So
Thank you, Eric, for that summary. I want to commend Eric and Jill and all those who participated in the process for a very thoughtful, deliberate approach to one of the more important pieces of narrative that we put out there about who we are and what we believe and what we're trying to do. At this point, before we have discussion or proposals on it, I would entertain a proposal to accept the change to the Constitution as shown here. Thank you, Christine. And do I see a second? Thank you, Linda Wilson. Now would be the time to make a comment or ask questions of Eric and Jill or anybody about the proposed amendment. And I'll make the comment that I really like it. It is condensed, but I've compared the previous wording and this one. I think it gets to the point really well, and it says the most important things. I think there's always some wordsmithing, like where maybe a word is missing or not, but overall, I think it does a better job than our previous one. So I would be supportive of it. Okay, wow. Good job, everybody. That's either we baffled everybody or you did a really good job. So thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and put it to a voice vote then. All in favor of approving the Constitution as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, those of you who participated on that committee and attended the meetings. The next and final agenda item is new business. This would be the time if you have something to put before the congregation. And when coming, I should have said at the beginning, please do state your name. It'll just make Lisa's life easier as she's taking notes.
Oh, sorry, it's Christine.
Not that she doesn't, yeah.
Christine Tani. When we did the stewardship campaign this year, we included in the letter and as a separate insert comment cards that you could, everybody could write down a ministry or an idea or suggestion that they would like to see First Church undertake. And I would just like to know what's happening with those cards. Did we get any back? Who's going to be reviewing them? What kind of action's being taken?
Thank you, Christine. Yes, John has shared at the last council meeting the cards. We did not take it up for business at the last council meeting, but we'll definitely do that for the next one. I'll make sure it's on the agenda. I've seen the comments, a lot of good information. Maybe Jill has something to say.
I know that some of the comments were taken into account in how we decided where to tweak things in the budget. There were some comments about, I don't remember some about wanting to make sure that we focus on youth, and so the youth budget did get an increase for 2025, and that was a direct response of those cards. So some of that was taken into account by the finance team when they put together the budget.
Any other items of new business anybody would like to put forth? Seeing none, I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Thank you all for participating, and it's nice to see everybody. Charlie, the meeting's over. You can't say anything now. Ah.